that you're sorry. We'll make up tomorrow. Tell me everything you know I wanna hear. I'm trying to be open, but that window is closing. And either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here. Before we're leaving here.
I know it ain't easy, but there's something left to hold on to. We can work it through, you don't have to go. There's a future here with me. We'll find the light in a clouded room. Not giving up until you know.
You tell me that you're sorry. We'll make up tomorrow. Tell me everything you know I wanna hear. I'm trying to be open, but that window is closing. And either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here. Either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here.
And shalom, everyone. Shalom. I want to welcome everyone to the house of the Lost Sheep of Israel. I'm Elder Michael Johnson, the pastor over here with the Lost Sheep of Israel and with King James Bible University. And I want to welcome each and every one of you this morning to this Sabbath teaching. I do want to do a little bit of house cleaning. And it's not a reprimanding in anyone in any way, but we do have people who asking to hit the like button. I do want to let people know one thing, that we over here, we're not seeking for you to force you to do anything. So with people who asking that, I understand where you're coming from, because we do know how the algorithms work with YouTube and how YouTube like to play their games. So we don't ask, and I specifically, I don't ask you to do it by choice. Unless you choose to hit the like button, you do it. But I'm not sitting there trying to make you do something as if I need those to be done. Because if you like what's going on, you're gonna hit the like anyway. And that'll help other people to find this channel, to see what the truth is. So if you choose not to, I understand it. If you choose to do it, I understand it. I understand both sides. But the main thing is, some people, they will come into places and feel that they have something that's special or a certain way, and then they choose not to share it. It's always going to be this way. So if you choose to do it, hey, we do thank you. And this is on any one of the platforms that we have that's out there. If you choose to hit the like button for that, that's fine. Because what it does, it helps other people to start finding the channel. Because over here with the Lost Sheep of Israel, with King James Bible University, we're against a powerful adversary, and he don't like what we do. And I can go through many things to show you what they have done to try to stop us from doing what we do. So if you choose to do so, we do appreciate it. But if you choose not to, I do understand it. And what we want to understand is a lot of things that's going on today. We want to make sure that as we're on the way, also, we're going to have the last sign-ups also for the baptism service that's going to be going on in Savannah. Now, with Savannah, we want to make sure that if you want to be part of that, please send that email there, because this is our last week we're going to be actually having people sign up. As well as later on, right after this teaching, we're going to go into Zoom to where people can get their last little things out and have a little announcement. And then we'll be doing another teaching right after that, which we'll be going into Proverbs this afternoon at 3 o'clock Pacific time and 5 o'clock Central and 6 o'clock Eastern time. So each and every person, if you choose to do this, and make sure, as we were saying on how some of what the qualifications are to get into what you want to know. This baptism service is very serious. It's not what people think, and not what people have shown and you've seen in many different religions, because this is not a religion at all. This is a lifestyle that you have chose to take, and this is by choice. And with that, we want to understand a couple of things. I want everybody to understand something, and as we're going to get into this, where we looking at the Pergamos, but the 7 churches, we want to understand what's going on, and we want to look at what's been happening here and what we're getting ready to enter into. We have some people who was left back in Samaria. We have some who was left back in Ephesus. But we want to understand, anybody that's left, we need to come and get you. We got to come and get you, because we want you to move forward. And what you're looking at right now is actually in the place of Pergamos. That's what you're actually looking at. We have to make sure many times to where you see what you're up against, to see where you are. And I want you to be able to visualize everything that's going on what we need to do. Because we getting ready to hit some pieces here to where it's going to ruffle feathers. It's going to make you think. But more so, I want you to meditate on what's getting ready to happen, on what we need to do. And this is what I want people to understand. This is what I want you to really understand is this. When we starting out, what do you see? When we are starting out, what do you see? What we are finding out is this. A lot of us are starting to see what I've been telling you for years. And I'm going to explain that, because we need to find out what I'm saying to what we know, what everybody what I'm talking about. And it's the same as we look at the silhouette picture as a child. You have a child. When you have child who they get hold to they little blankets, and they don't want to let go of their blanket, because that blanket is a protection. I don't care what you tell them, how you flip it, how you try to tell them, it don't have no value in anything whatsoever. But you can't get that child to believe that that blanket is not protection. This is the same thing that we see here. And we're going to be explaining this and why I have to do it this certain way to understand what we're doing as we're going through Pergamos. The same thing is today, and most of us, everybody here today. The first thing we did when we came into this world the first thing we breathed was water. People sit there like, how did we breathe water? The first thing you breathed was water. You was in your mother's womb, and this is why when she get ready to have a baby, her water breaks. The first thing we breathed was water. The second thing we breathed is air. Now, this is going to ruffle feathers as we go on. Which one is by choice? That's the question. I don't need you to answer it, but that's something I want you to think about, because I'm going to tell you the answer to it. And which one was by choice? It was both. Both is decided on. As with the water, you decided, most people, if you go under there and you do it, most people don't know, you decided to drown. You decided to drown. The same with air. People say, well, air I can breathe, air I can do this, and air I can understand the breathing of air. But people don't know the Earth's atmosphere is made up of approximately about 78-79% nitrogen and 21% oxygen. So what do this add up to? Yeah, I'm going to explain it to you. If you're breathing 100% oxygen, 100% oxygen, it'll kill you. If you breathe it over a normal period of time, you will die. If you breathe in 100% oxygen, because it'll destroy the normal balance of this CO2. So we have to understand the differences in choices. It's not like if you have to take pain. I want you to think about that. Pain. Pain is something you can't avoid. Suffering is by choice. I want you to think about that. See, I'm going to show you something. I want to make sure we're all on the same page as we continue through this journey. We want to understand exactly what we need to do. So I want to show you something and make sure that we all on the same page here. I'm going to take you to something by showing you by choice we did. And you look at this in 1 Peter chapter 4, but we're going to look at verse 12. I want to make sure we understand by choice, as we getting into this teaching here. As we getting into this teaching, it says, beloved, think not as strange concerning fiery trials which will try you, comparing though some strange things happen unto you. Because you chose to go the way of Christ, these things will happen. And I want to make sure we clearly get what I'm saying here. Because it's a choice that you personally made. It's a choice you personally made to make. You chose to take it. You chose to go this way. And with this choice, you're going to suffer many things. Not by strangers, by family members, by friends. A man once said this. I'm not going to even share his name, but most people know exactly what I'm saying. This man once said, he said, slavery was by choice. Slavery was a choice. Was his statement correct? Was his statement correct? He said it was by choice. And the reason why people have a problem with what he said, he couldn't give you the foundation of his statement. But his statement was 100% true. That's why most times I never would say nothing on it. I wouldn't comment on it. But it was true. And the main thing is I'm going to give you the method behind why that statement was there. Because he was sitting there saying slavery was by choice. And we want to see this here. And I'm going to show you why that's so important. I'm going to take you over here to Deuteronomy chapter 28. We're going to look at verse 15. 28:15. I want to show you by choice we made this. By choice. in Deuteronomy 28, verse 15, it says, but it shall come to pass. That part I don't want to pay attention to. It's going to come to pass. That we don't need to look at. What I want you to see is if, providing. Why that is there? Providing thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Spirit of thy God, to obey, to observe, to do all the commandments in his statute, which I command thee this day, all these curses shall come upon thee and shall overtake thee. Choice. We had a choice to follow him, or we had a choice to do our own thing. But our problem is we want our cake and we want to eat the cake too. So once he said that, it rattled a lot of people's feathers. Why? We chose to go this way. We chose to be here. We chose to do the things we want to do. And as we did these things, now we getting the repercussions of this. And now we want to not put blame on ourselves. We want to put blame on everyone around us except us. Except us. Which brings me to the exact place where we need to be doing. Brings me to the exact place where we need to be doing. And to understand exactly why we have a problem that we have. Actually, I need to make this fonts a little bit bigger. Just a little bit bigger. Just a little. Let me make these just a tad bigger. Y'all just excuse me 1 minute. I just want to make them a little bit larger. And hopefully that made it a little bit better. Is everybody good with that? Let me see. Do I need to make that let me see. Do I need to make that a little bit? I know y'all gonna like that one, so I might well just move it up. I'm not gonna even ask you guys, 'cause I already know the answer to it. So let me go ahead and just make it all larger. I'm just gonna make it all larger and put it right to there. And be done. Okay, so we are there. Now, what we want to do, we want to look at something. We're going to go to Revelation chapter 2, but we want to look at this at verse 11. And the reason why we were looking at Pergamos and why we were just talking about the conversation we having, I want you to think about something. I want you to think about something real close as we go through here. Because we getting ready to go through some bumpy waters. And we getting ready to go deeper and deeper as we continually move forward. And it's telling us this here. It says, he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. So saying unto these bodies of people, he that overcometh shall not be hurt in the second death. You see, this is, I'm talking, he's letting you know you're not going to suffer pain in this second one. The world that we live in, we strive to live holy without the Spirit of God. A lot of us do this. And we try to hear without their ears or breathe without lungs. That's why I was just saying, telling you this. During the whole process, God made preparations for his very elect. Not the elect, for the very elect. And he provides them ears specifically for this particular function. So the success is of a joke that is never determined by something. Because when you sit there and when you look at a joke, I want you to understand the significance of a joke. See, the joke is never determined by the joker's author. Never. Ever. Or the person that hears it. Not the joke. It's determined by the person who laughs at it. That's the point of the joke. The person that laughs at it. Although everyone has the ability to hear it, not everyone had the capacity to comprehend what they heard with their ears. You following what I'm saying? This is something we can do, we can accomplish, and something that we meant to choose. And the same thing, the reason why Christ says, let those who have ears to hear, let him hear. That's why he said that. So from Ephesus, we have a chance to obtain the crown of life. He who have ears to hear, the Spirit of God speak to the people. But in order to do what we must do, we have to be loyal unto death. I want you to pay attention to that. Many of us people, we call these messengers, these apostles. Everybody want to deliver a message. Everybody want, all of a sudden, everyone is messengers. Everyone becomes these messengers of Christ. But then we'll find out what's going on here as we sit there and we look at this. And go down to verse 12. It says, "In the angel of the church in Pergamos, the messenger of the church of Pergamos write, these things which he hath a sharp sword with two edges." Now, I'm going to explain a lot of things to make sure we could all stay on the same page. Because these messengers wrote to the third body in the messenger, but we want to understand exactly what's going on. So Pergamos, we want to understand what Pergamos is. Pergamos is a forfeited. It's forfeited. See, their history, their doctrines, including they get into mixed marriages. We're going to find out what all these things are. And when we see this here, and it's talking about this sharp sword. See, most people, they like to say iron sharpen iron. They like to use all these catchphrases that's in the Bible, but not really knowing what it's saying. So the same thing with this sharp sword. See, sharp, we got to understand which is corrupt. A sword is the weapon of war, but it's to divide doctrines of truth from lies. So many of us would claim that we are Jews. We are followers of Christ. Despite not even being nothing like them in character. So the two-edge, so we're seeing this two-edge, meaning both sides, this two-edge, both sides are corrupt. We'll see these men that are using these doctrines to deceive 100% people. As we get into go into it, we have two problems here. As we in Pergamos, we have two problems, and we're going to really look at them. We're going to address them. One of the doctrines is doctrines of the Nicolaitans. The Nicolaitans, destroyer of people, heresy followers, Nicolaitans. In the teaching that they are offensive, a lot of them, they do blasphemies to God. Then we have another doctrine that's in Pergamos. You have the doctrine of Balaam. This is being lords and rulers of people, calling themselves seers of God. In fact, let's look at something. We'll find this in 1 Peter chapter 5, and we're going to look at verse 3. And this is so important because it's telling you, it says, neither comparing being lords over God's heritage, but being examples to the flock. Did you see what Peter said? Not being lords, but we'll go to places today, we'll see they will compare themselves as being lords over Yahweh's heritage, which is the heritage, meaning his traditions and statutes. They call themselves being lords over that. Over his traditions and over his statutes, based on doctrines in the culture in the matter of fulfilling them with the ordinances that they feel and they see fit. Are you guys following what's going on here? This is why I wanted me really kind of taking my time. Make sure you really understand how they push these doctrines and this craziness. Very, very important. And as we continue, I want to pull up a couple of places and make sure that we all going to stay on the same page. In Proverbs, picking it up at chapter 4, and he said this. He says, I will give you good doctrine, forsake not my law. But who became these lords over his heritage? Who became lords over his doctrines? We have no need to turn away from his law, from his culture, his language, since he will provide with his sound doctrine. He's holding us to this. His doctrine comes a certain way. It'll drop, it'll fall like rain, and plants, and we'll be the grass, and it'll show you things we must do in this word. God, his word has fell upon man, and it's like it's distilled. So this doctrine of JEHOVAH is perfect, blameless, in the eyes of anybody who pursues righteousness. However, Christ says something to the messengers in Pergamos. He says something particularly to the people in Pergamos. I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to show it to you because he has it right here in verse 13. He says, I know thy works and where thou dwellest. So we got a problem here. I know thy works and where thou dwellest. We got to dig into that. More so, he says, even where Satan's seat is, we got to go through that. Including thou holdest fast my name, we got to deal with that. Including has not denied my faith, you got to deal with that. Even in those days where Antipas, we're going to find out what's going on there, was my faithful martyr who was slain among you, where Satan dwelleth. He said a mouthful in this one. But we have to deal with it in that way. I don't care how we're looking at it. We have to deal with that in that way. And I want to make sure that we understand this because JEHOVAH says he knows our works. And even our works of loyalty, and if our loyalty is there, but he's saying our loyalty, he knows where most of our loyalty is dwelling. He knows where our loyalty is dwelling. I know your works. And where you dwelling, where you is holding on to something. But you dwelling and you holding on to the name, to the ways of God. See, this is what you want to say, but we're going to find out if this all true. Did not Peter tell Yahushua something? I'm going to show you to make sure we can all come back to memory on some of these things, because some of us must have forgot. And we'll find this in Mark chapter 8. And we're going to take this right here at verse 33. And you'll see something here. You see something right here in verse 33. It says, but when he had turned about and he looked on his disciples, he rebuked Peter. Well, I'm going to tell you why in a second. And he says, get thee behind me, Satan. For thou savoreth not the thing that be of God, but the thing be of men. Why is he saying it in this way? We're going to find out. Because he savoreth, meaning he sacrificed his covenant. He's rather sacrifice his covenant for men than for God. Because he's looking at Yahushua the man, and he want to hold on to the man. Excuse me. More so, he's not holding on to the things of Jehovah, but the things of men. In flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. So why is he holding on to the message of a man and not to the message of God? We have to understand why all these things are there. We have to understand exactly how serious this is and why we cannot be playing these little games. That's why it's getting so important. In fact, as we continually go through here, and we find out more so what's happening here. You see, even Job was a guy, he was blameless. He was perfect and upright. And he was righteous, and he feared God. But he avoided from doing anything wicked. I want you to think about that. He avoided from doing things wicked. And he was blessed. I wanted to show you this silhouette picture. He was blessed with 10 children, 7 sons and 3 girls. His wealth included even over 7,000 sheep and 3,000 camels. He had 5,000 oxen and everything. He had 500 she-asses. He was the man of the East. He was the man of the East. In putting on that level, Job's greatness was above all other men. I don't care how we look at it. He was above all other men. But I want you to understand what's going on. Now, as Job was above all other men, his sons lived as heathens. They had feasts in their homes, and each one his own day. They even sent and called for their sisters, and all of them is eating and drinking and being merry. To support. In the Bible is strict. You trying to serve God and mammon. But were they trying to serve God and mammon, or was Job trying to serve God and mammon? Let's look at it. It's right here. In Job chapter 1, verse 5, it says, "And it was so when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them, and arose early in the morning and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, it may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Thus did Job continually." Bingo. Bingo. Okay, so what's going on here? Because these burnt offerings, these living gifts, these burnt offerings, living gifts according to his children by the number. However, what was he doing? See, whatever he was doing, and he got to find out what is going on. Why is he going to sanctify them in the morning to God? See, this is the point I want you to make sure we clearly is making sure we understand together. We got to understand this, because not only us, really not only Job, but we do this. We do the same identical thing. In Matthew chapter 10, and we're going to look at verse 37. I want to show you something. I want to show you something here. And what I want to see was this here. I want to show you something here. It says, "He that loveth father, mother more than me is not worthy of me. He that loveth son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me." So, if this children is cursing God, why is Job sanctifying them? And they not doing the will of the Father. If his children, he's saying may have cursed God, and he knows it because that's why he's doing it. Why is he sanctifying them? If we know our children is doing these evil things, why are we sanctifying them? You see how this gets closer? I have children, people out here, many of us have children. But if we know they're doing wrong, why are we sanctifying them to God? You need to answer that within yourself. You need to literally be able to answer that within yourself. This is what's going on here. This is why it's so important. If we sitting there, we doing this, we need to understand exactly what we is going through. Let's look at something. I want to show you something. Because what he actually does something in this, and he looks at this a little bit different. Because I'm going to show you what happened here. And we want to look at that a little bit closer. In Jeremiah, it says this. In Jeremiah. And we're going to go to Jeremiah chapter 18, picking it up at verse 15. In verse 15, he's saying this right there. He says, because my people have forgotten me, they have burnt incense. They burned incense to vanity. Burnt incense is telling you what they did. They made live confessions. This is what Job did. He made live confessions to him in vanity, straight to vanity. It says they have caused them to stumble in their ways from the ancient path to walk in paths in the way not cast up. That's what we did. This is what we did. This is what I'm saying. While we here in Pergamos, and while we got to deal with some things that's got a lot closer, this is what we dealing with. We had made live confessions to something, and we knew was wrong. We knew it was wrong. We know our child is out there doing things that is not right. But we have put up live confessions and make sacrifices for them. Think about that. We done it. We have done this. In fact, we'll get more on with this here. We'll get more with this here. 1 second. I want to show you this here, and let me show you this here. I want to go over here. We're going to look at Proverbs. We're going to go to Proverbs. And I want to show you this in Proverbs 28. And get a little bit more context on what we need to do. In 28, but we're going to go to verse 8. It says, he that by usury his unjust gain increase his substance. The question is, did Job do this? Did Job do this? That's the question. So if Job did it, guess what? We did it. So he that by usury, including unjust gain, increased his substance, shall he gather it from that will pity the poor? But it gets better. He that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be an abomination. Brings us right back here again. We can't even get around it. So my question to you, my question to each and every one of us, and we can put the answers in there if we have done this. I promise you some not going to do it because they're just not going to, they're going to sit there and they perfect. But I'm just going to ask you the question. When you know your son or your daughter, your husband or your wife is out there doing wrong, have you sat there and you made sacrifices for them to God? Have you did that? Have you done this? These are things we have done. Because if we haven't, I don't know who haven't. I don't know who haven't did this. People will sit there and no, I don't do it. No. We're guilty of this all day long. We'll sit there and knowing our child is doing wrong, and we will still make sacrifices to God for them. This is the problem. This is the big problem we have. This is why he and Job was doing this. This is what Job was doing. This is why it's so important. We have to get closer to us and see that. Actually, I'm going to tell you what. I'll share something also with you. I did this before, but most people don't know who wrote Job. Most people don't know who wrote Job. But just to let you know, Job is sitting way over there. But who wrote Job was Moses. Moses wrote Job. Most people don't even know that. But that's just beside the point. That's beside the point. So the same thing is, Job was doing this through this whole different way. So we're going to go back to Job and we're going to look at something. We got to look at something here with Job. We're going to go to Job and we're going to look at, now we're going to go over here to verse 9. Because the main thing is, Job wasn't getting over on God at all. He wasn't getting over on God at all. We're going to look at this and watch what it says here. It says, then Satan answered the Spirit of God and said, doeth Job desire God for naught? Is he doing this for that? Don't he do that because you doing this? I'm going to tell you, this is comical. It's a comical thing. He even says this in verse 10. He says, has not thou made a hedge about him, including his house and about all that he hath on every side, that thou blessed the work in his hands, and his substance is increased in his land? That's interesting. I'm going to show you why it's interesting. I'm going to go to another place in Job. Because Job knew what was going on. Satan knew what was Satan was being boo-boo. We're going to see it. In Job chapter 9, and we looked this up in 24. 24, it tells us this, and it's clear. Job 9:24, it says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Job knew this. It was given into the hand of the wicked, so the things that's in this earth belongs to who? It belongs to Satan. It belongs to Satan. His faith the teachers thereof, if not, who is he? So if it was given to the hands of the wicked, why in the world Satan over there thinking that God did all that? Job was fooling Satan. And that's why the Most High had to remind him of that. And you'll see this here in verse 12. In Job chapter 1, verse 12. And the Spirit of God said unto Satan, he says, remember, boo-boo, come here, boo-boo. You don't remember. Remember all that thou hast, all that he hath is in thy power. It's in your power. It's been given into the hand of the wicked. Why are you sitting there tripping with me? He says, only upon himself put not forth thy hand. He been gaining on you. He been getting over on you. Even his prayers was abominations to me. He's telling you, he turned away his ear from hearing the law. Even his prayers shall be an abomination. God wasn't even hearing his prayers. Satan is just letting him just get over on him. These are the things that happens. This is what's going on. He's been getting over on Satan the entire time. Why do you think Satan got so angry? Why do you think Satan started taking out everything? Wait a minute. All this was mine? All this, wait a minute. He was getting over on me. And Most High said, yeah, dude, I thought you knew that. I thought you knew he was getting over on you. Oh, I got something for him. And he went down there and unleashed hell. That's why Satan took everything. Everything. It started making sense. It started making a whole lot of sense. But I'm going to show you something. I want to make sure we get something. I want to make sure we all on the same page here. In Songs of Solomon, in chapter 8, in looking at something over here in verse 13. Verse 13. It says, thou that dwelleth in the gardens, the companions hearken to thy voice. Cause me to hear it. Ah, interesting. Interesting. Because the children's practicing the doctrines of devils, but then they in there with these companions. Companions is the friends and neighbors, and they hearken to the things that they teach, which causes the Spirit of God, who the ones who trying to hold on to God, cause him to hear it. He hear it. He don't want to hear it, but he hear it. Can't help but hear it. And they do more to this. They do a little bit more to this. This is why we run into these issues. We find out that it don't come out what we want to do. We find out even more so where we have a lot more problems with a lot more things. In Isaiah chapter 66, and we'll look at this in verse 17. In verse 17, it says, they that sanctify themselves, they separate themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree. In the midst, eating swine's flesh, including the abominations in the mouth, shall be consumed together, saith the Spirit of God. Why is he saying this? See, in this who do this, and the ones who do these things and making sure everyone is day, everyone is time, that's what he's talking about. But then these men, they sanctify themselves. They sanctify, meaning they separate and they dedicate themselves, including they purify, they cleanse themselves in the gardens. In the gardens. You see right there, gardens. It's not garden. In the gardens among the people, meaning among the people of Israel. Looking at the wealthiest children in the land. Job children. Everyone his day. That is not good. This is why it's so important to make sure we watch what we're doing, we watch what we're talking about, we watch what we learn, and we watch who we learn from. In Genesis chapter 2, picking it up at verse 9, it's telling us right here in verse 9, it says, out of the ground the Spirit of thy God to grow every tree that is pleasant in thy sight, and good for food. The tree of life, also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Both are there. The tree of good and evil, both are there. So this thing we got to understand, we got to remember what this sword is, this weapon of war, and it's two-edged on both sides, and it's not good, because this is the doctrine of Balaam and the doctrine of the Nicolaitans. These doctrines is of swines, only contemptible and unclean things. I want you to understand what's going on. That's why it says they dwelleth eating swine's flesh, contemptible and unclean things, including the mouth, the creeping things, these creeping things. It's there. Now we see we can't get around anything. We're starting to understand a lot more as we're down here in Pergamos. Because he's going to talk about everything that's going on. But the problem is, it's telling you this tree of knowledge of good and evil, this elder who has this tree of knowledge, this knowledge of good and evil, this is where our biggest problem is. Because he's telling us right here, he says, I know thy works and where thou dwelleth. What are we doing over there? What are we doing over there? We had no business there. Had not one stitch of business there. And because he said, I know what Satan's seat is. So he know what Satan's seat, he know what Satan's dwellings. He know what Satan is dwelling at. He among the people who hold to those doctrines and not to the ways of JEHOVAH, but acting like they are. Even Antipas. You see Antipas? Who's Antipas? I don't know what that. Don't worry. We're gonna work all that out. So I want you to understand Antipas. I want you to understand this one right here, Antipas. Antipas is the one who against the customs of the land, the one who don't hold to the traditions of the fathers. That's him. Antipas, not a particular person. That's what Antipas is. Everybody with me? It's not a particular person. It's what Antipas is. I want to make sure everybody get this as we move forward. As we move forward, we understand it. As we move forward, we'll understand it. Antipas is one who is against the customs of the land. And he's against the traditions of the fathers, meaning he's against the traditions of men. He's against those. And these the ones was his faithful martyr. A martyr. Meaning this martyr is a witness and treasure. These are these faithful witness and treasure. Holding to this faithful, this desired expectation, this outcome, and what they was looking for. In what they was looking for. So we have to be and hold on to certain things. So people who know the truth, and we know if the truth is eternal salvation, then we need to speak about and speak to our friends and family members. But we must remember one thing, because a lot of us, we have a problem. We run into friends and family members. We have a slight problem, and that's what I was telling us from the beginning. We have a slight problem here, and a lot of us is going to miss the kingdom based on this alone. Based on this alone, we're going to miss the kingdom. People think this is a joke, but it's not. And he's in Christ saying this, and he making sure we're clear as day, crystal. He says, "Think not that I come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword." He came with this weapon of war. He came with this sword, this weapon of war, this sword, to divide this truth from this lie. The doctrine of Balaam and the Nicolaitans is contrary to Christ. But a lot of us are going to try to save family and everything, so they're going to be cool with family. That's the cool. I need to stay cool with this person. I need to stay cool with this niece. I need to stay cool with this nephew. I need to stay cool with my son. I need to stay cool with these here. I need to be cool with them. So I'm not going to share exactly because I know that'll make them upset. However, that's with the workings of Satan. Those are the workings of Satan. All signs and lying wonders, all deceivableness and unrighteousness. These are the ones who's destined to fall and fail in all things. And they will go into destruction anyway. Because most of them, they say they accepted the truth, but they didn't. They didn't accept the gospel in exchange for eternal life. They didn't accept that. They think that they have it, and now they don't have to really quite share, because I don't want to get them upset. I don't want them to be mad. I just can't do it. This is my friend. So I don't want to share that, because I'm going to lose that friend if I bring that up. They already departed from the faith. When you say that and you hold to that, you already departed from the faith, the desire, the expectation, and you have given heed to these seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. Did you know that? Did each and every one of us understand that? Soon as you sit there and you put them above the message of God, you automatically put yourself and remove yourself from the desired expectation, you think you're going to enter into the kingdom of God, and you're going to miss it. 100%. This is why it's so important. This is why we sit here and we people, like they say, they play church. They play church. Because they're giving heed to these things, these doctrines, and what they think what people doing. And we live in these teachings, and we live in hypocrisy. 100% hypocrisy. And you think that your life and your way that you're doing it, and it's really being sealed with a hot iron. Really being sealed. Because no matter what, you think that you're right. No matter what. They're right and you're right. When you see these doctrines of hypocrisy, both sides are right. You can side with both sides. He said, I didn't come to send no peace. I didn't come here for that. I didn't come to agree with both sides. I came to divide this. This is craziness. This is pure craziness. In 2 Thessalonians, we're looking at this in verse 4. Chapter 2, verse 4, and he's making this clear. He says, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing that himself that he is God. Boom. Who did that shoot? That shot all of us again. Why are we saying that? If you choose not to share this message with someone, and he said you share it, you in the position of God. You choose, no, I'm not going to share it because I don't want to cause friction with this relationship. I don't want to cause that kind of friction. Oh, you're God. You sitting in the temple of God thinking that you are God. You're a hypocrite. We're on the same page. See, this is what we do, and this is the problem we have. Because they will be in these buildings, they'll be over people's houses, they'll be over anywhere. But then when you actually know what the truth is, and it presents itself, and he gonna make sure that happens. He gonna present itself, and you gonna say, I'm going to be quiet because I don't need none of them I don't need to cause no ruckus. And me and them is real cool. See, it gets a little bit more. Let's look at something in Isaiah chapter 14, and we're going to look at this over in verse 13. For thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven and exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. And it gets better. Verse 14. Actually, I want just verse 14. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. I'm gonna see who I should give the word to and who I shouldn't give it to. Both sides. My man. These men in their success and what they look for in their spirits. These doctrines have two-edged swords, both sides. These are doctrines of Nicolaitans and the doctrine of Balaam, which both are doctrines of death. Or 100% doctrines of death. This is what we do. This is us in a nutshell, and we over here in Pergamos, and this is what we dealing with. This is what we dealing with 100%. In fact, I want to show you something. We want to go. I want to go over here to Proverbs. I want to show you this real key thing in Proverbs chapter 5. But I want to take you right here to verse 4. It says, "But her end is bitter, comparing wormwood, sharp, comparing a two-edged sword." Cut us again. Bitter, cruel, and doubtful. In comparing wormwood, poison, and being upside down, and it is sharp, it's corrupt, comparing two-edged, both sides. The weapon of war and the doctrines, between the doctrine of truth and the doctrines of lies. That's interesting, isn't it? This is 100% interesting. In fact, let me go here. I was going to go here, but I'm going to go here. We're going to nail this one down. It says, her feet go down to death. Her steps take hold to hell. Her feet, her desires go down to death. Her steps, her paths take hold on hell. Yeah, going straight to hell. And it's going to take, meaning it's going to seize, it's going to take hold, it's going to take this possession. And we sitting there and got hold to this poison. I want you, we can't get around this. The Holy Spirit who blessed with infinite wisdom and understanding, and we proceed with the fashion of man and not looking at the ways of God. Men was fashioned after the image of God, both male and female. We are the shadow, we supposed to be the shadows of God in the good things that come from it. We was created without transgression. We was created without blame in us. This is us. In a nutshell, we were created with nothing in us. But nothing was in us in what we put in there. He said, I want you to fill this up with good things. So he blessed us. But is that true? Is that true? See, he says, even holdest fast to my name, to my way, including thou hast not denied my faith, even in those days when Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was slain among you where Satan dwelleth. This is slain, we being killed, but we got to understand what we're doing. Let's look at this a little bit closer now and go down a little bit more. It says, but I have a few things against thee. See, now we're getting into the main part again. He have a few things against us, because thou hast there them that hold to the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast stumbling blocks before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed unto idols, including to commit fornication. This is us. These things is an issue with the Spirit of God. Because we have done these things in His presence. And the main thing is, we teach these doctrines. Meaning, we teach the doctrines to want to be, the doctrine of Balaam, want to be rulers of people. Didn't we understand 1 Peter 5:3? Not being lords over God's heritage. But we want to sit there, no, I need a leader. Haven't we learned from that? Have we learned anything from any of this? The same doctrine that Balak, and he cast stumbling blocks, these imaginations of sin. Putting people up, pumping them up, to put them there, these stumbling blocks. We do this. We soon as one is out of the way, we immediately start looking and we start searching at this unreal, unsensational, just hunger. We just have to, who was going to be our new leader? Who is going to be that leader? To cast us some more stumbling blocks. That's what we do. And what they do, they will oblige you. They will oblige you because this is what we do. So he will oblige us. And we'll find this in Jude 4. He says, for there are certain men crept in unawares. All they need is a crack. Just a crack to get in. Once they get that crack to get in, they can get us. And it says, they crept in unawares, who were before of old ordained to this condemnation, ungodly men, teaching the doctrines of Balak, the Nicolaitans. To this condemnation, turn the grace of our God into lasciviousness and denying the only Creator, God of our Creator of salvation of the Anointed One. Yeah. And we go another way. We didn't have a problem doing this. We don't have a problem doing certain things. In fact, let's join this right with it, because these men, they didn't crept in. And now we have the hardest time trying to get them out. And we had the hardest time trying to get these men out. In 1 Timothy chapter 6, and we're going to take this right here in verse 4. Telling you exactly what they are. He's proud, knowing nothing, but doubting about questions and strife of words, and wherever cometh envy, strife, and railings, and evil submergings. Yeah, this is them. Evil men. Doubting about these words. Doubting, meaning they being foolish. with these questions. And then they come up with all these kind of just silly questions to try to pull you from what the truth is. This is what, soon as you sit there and you can ask somebody about something specifically in the Bible, and besides they trying to see where you're coming from, they'll sit there and they want to ask you what do you personally think. Let's not use the Bible. Let's see what you personally think. What do you think? No, we ain't gonna look at the Bible. What do you personally think? Foolish. Being 100% foolish in what they do. We're good at doing that. But it tells us even more. It tells us even more. These questions of strife, contentions and struggles, and then they envy, being jealous, and then they strife for fights and railing, their slander, including blasphemy. They'll lie on you. How many people have been lied on? I tell you what, you put it in the chat. All you gotta do is put yes or no. Have you ever been lied on based on you to show somebody something in the book, and they will sit there and you tell me, have they ever sat there and lied on you? You see what's going on. Just because you show them something in the book, they'll tell you that's a lie, even though it's right there in the book. It's right in the book. They'll lie on you. They will do anything to get you to shut up. They'll do anything to get you just to go away. This is what they do. They're good at doing this. What is that called? Blasphemy. They don't care. They do not care. So we're looking at this and we want to understand more so why this is happening. These evil submersions, and then everyone, the evil submersions actually gets down, these evil submersions here. Now everyone's a suspect. Everybody becomes a suspect. Diverse disputings of corrupt minds. It's telling you all right here. Diverse corrupt minds and destitute. They destitute of the truth, meaning they can't even find the truth. They can't find it. If the truth was sitting right in front of them, they couldn't even find it. And if it was right in front of them, if it was put in their hand, they wouldn't even know that's the truth. They destitute of the truth. They destitute of the truth. This is what it is. We can't get around this. So what is going on? He said that. He said, I have a few things against you. I have a few things against you. People who hold to these doctrines. Men teaching contrary. Other things that are sacrificed. He's telling you. Eating things sacrificed unto idols. This is what we got to deal with. We have to deal with this full head on. The reason why. Sacrifice is these established covenants in practice. And what the idols are, when you want to know idols are, how it's functioning and how it's actually working, we're dealing with adulteries. You're married to Christ. So when you're dealing with these practices and these established covenants with idols, you're dealing with adulteries. Committing even fornication and whorish acts. That's why he said, and commit fornication. These whorish acts. And the reason why, we was created with nothing. I want you to I got to keep going back there. We was created with nothing in it. We didn't have no blame. He didn't create us with blame. We put blame in us. Everybody with me on that? See, if everybody can agree that when you were created, you didn't have no blame in you. There ain't nothing he can blame on you. Let's take this a little bit closer. Let's take this a little bit closer. We got to go closer. We got to go closer because this the only way we can make sense of this. In Ezekiel chapter 28, and we'll look at verse 15. And tells us here. It says, "Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the days that thou wast created." So if we say we weren't created perfect, okay, we just call God a liar. We called him a liar. Because he said we was perfect in our ways from the day that thou was created, till iniquity was found in us. Iniquity was found in us. It is what it is. And people say that, well, how is iniquity found in us? We're going to find out. See, not just was Job perfect and upright, but his ways changed from the ways of the Creator. He started sacrificing things when those things he already knew wasn't going to be accepted. Iniquity was found in him. Same as us. We know that iniquity was found in us because we'll do things, sacrifice to idols. People, I don't know what they're saying. Okay, you using your children as an idol, using your husband as an idol, using your wife as an idol, using your cousin as an idol, using your friend as an idol. It was found in you. You made burnt offerings for those. And those things is a curse to God. Abominations to him. Are you understanding this? Those things is abominations to God. So why would you still offer it to God? Let's take this a little bit closer. Let's go a little bit closer here. In Psalms, it says something in Psalms 149. And we want verse 6. We want verse 6 right here. It says, "Let the high praises of God be in their mouth, including a two-edged sword in their hand." Dang, that was deep. that was kind of deep. The reason why I say that, because we see here the Spirit of God in the people with these doctrines. But the Spirit of God tells us this road is a narrow road. And we have to stay on this one little, narrow little bitty line. We got to stay on this one little, this way. Because on both sides ends up on death. That's in our power. In the two-edged sword, in their power. That's in our power. It's not in no one else's power. That's in our power. I want you to clearly pay attention to what we're trying to convey and make sure we both understand this together. That's clearly in our power. And the power is in our hands. Meaning this, we had the power to make our own choice. Remember what we talked about earlier? You remember from the beginning. The power, you made the power to suffer, to go the ways of Christ. You made that choice. You remember that. If you remember that, then you know this. It's a two-edged sword in your hand. You had the power to go down on your right side, or you have power to go down on your left side. Or you have power to walk that fine line which is constantly cutting you, dividing you from truth and lies. That's the choice that we made. And once we make that choice, we have to understand those choices and vengeance will come upon them. And one of the biggest problems that men have is people who want to be chiefs. People who like to mix. People who even mix with strange wives. Let's go a little bit deeper here and find out a little bit more what I want you to actually see. And actually that's going up to, we'll look at something in Ezra chapter 10. Taking 10 and we're going to look at verse 10. In Ezra the priest, he stood up and said unto them, Ye have transgressed in taking strange wives to increase the trespassing of Israel. I don't care how we look at it. That's what we did. I don't care how you think about it. This is what you did. People sit there and think that it's not nothing, and it's everything. This is why it said the kingdom is not for everybody. It's not for everybody. Because we thinking we can pick and choose like we at Burger King. We can have it our way. And that's not the truth. That's our biggest problem. Ezra, who is also a Dries, he's saying we transgressed, we've forgotten. We are taking on strange wives. We are taking on these adulteries and strange spirits and aliens. This is not saying nothing about a stranger, which are sojourners. So we're talking about two different things. Strange wives and we have strangers. Actually, I'm going to tell you what, let's do this. In Exodus chapter 22, verse 21. It says, Thou shalt neither vex a stranger nor oppress him, for he were strangers in the land of Egypt. For ye, because we were strangers in their land. Those are talking about, referring to Ham's children. And we were strangers in their land. So this ain't talking about strange wives and strangers, because he's talking about two different things. We're talking about two different things. And with that, we have to make sure we separate those and keep from what that is. Once we understand these things and understand what we need to be doing, we can fully understand more so what God requires of us. Meaning this. It says, They that may keep thee from the strange woman, from the stranger with flatterers with her words. Interesting. With her words. This is with her words is one of the reasons why they ran into the issue that they had, that why they was put separately. And you'll see this here in Genesis chapter, we'll go to chapter 10. We'll look at verse 5. This is why those Gentiles was put off. It tells you here, it says, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided by their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families in their nation. This is why they was put off. This is why. Because for the flattery of her words. This was the issue. Because these tongues and after their language, you talking about these customs, these truths, and these ways. He didn't want that mix there. That mix could not be there. So he separated it and let them be off. This is the important part. Where most people sit there and say, well, no, we have to look at it this way, we have to look at it that. No, you look at it for what it is. Because this was the children of Japhet. They was put off on the house because they, with their own ways, the flatteries of their ways, of their strangers, and they sit there and they want to do things completely different than the ways of God. He said, okay, so what I'm going to do is put you guys off over there and you guys can have your ways. But you're not going to be with these. And now people think that they can still mix it, and it's not the truth. He said this in Ezra chapter 10, verse 11. He says, now for that reason make confessions with the Spirit of God of your fathers and do this pleasure. Separate yourselves from the people of the land. A lot of people are not going to do that. A lot of people is not going to do that. And I'm going to tell you the biggest problem is this. This is not just talking about Gentiles. This is talking about people who say they're Israel and are not. You got to remember what we've been running through. You have certain men crept in to want you to hold to a certain doctrine. He don't want the ones who sitting there, who's not willing to sit there, and I'm cool with my cousin, I'm cool with this one, I'm cool. He's not talking about you either. This is talking about you. When he's saying separate from them, that's what he's saying, separating from you. Don't be around those type of people. These people like this, they're going to always inject something that's contrary to doctrine because they're going to put in there, no matter what, their own understanding somewhere in there to justify what they want to do. I don't care what we do. So people sit there, so what about Gentile? No, not just about Gentile. What about you? What about you? Because you is the bigger problem. A Gentile, we'll see him coming. You a creep in and we don't know who you are until you open your mouth. You're more dangerous than a Gentile. So we got to try that spirit because we don't know who you are. That's the difference. We sit there and we look at this, and as it says, we make these confessions. This is what God commanded of the prophet Azariah, that we separate ourselves from the strange wives because of these men that crept in with these customs of the land. This two-edged sword. Doctrine of the Nicolaitans and the doctrines of Balaam. Being this hypocritical set of people. This hypocritical set. And we have to understand that. So, when we want to understand something, we want to understand if this sword is on both sides, and this line is so narrow, and how can we look at this? It's a good question. good question, and it comes with an answer. In fact, we're going to look at something, and we're going to go over here to second address, because it comes with a good answer. Second address, we're going to look at chapter 7. Within our power. And we want to understand this sword, what it's like. Because this sword is a dividing of doctrines of truth. And we enter into this river. And the river is, we're going to enter into where it's a nation of people. And some with the truth, and some holding on to the truth, and some holding to the doctrines of Balaam and the doctrines of the Nicolaitans in this river. Keep that in mind. Keep that one in mind. And the reason why this is important is this. Because it's telling it says the interest thereof is narrow, including is set in a dangerous place to fall, like if there were fire, meaning desire, on the right hand, and on the left, deep water. We got the doctrines on both sides. All they want you to do is fall on one side. And if you fall on one side, they're going to get you. If you fall on one side, you got. So our vulnerabilities lies on both sides. With desires that are more profound, and then we got cultural understandings and lust on the other. So remember, this is a narrow, and we must hold to what Christ said first. If we are faithful, and we have ears to hear, and we go through this river, we can't avoid going through this river, but we can avoid the second death. We can avoid that. That's why this is always said here. We look at this in 1 John chapter 4. He tells us this, and we got to pay attention to it. It says, Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits, whether they are of God, because many false prophets are going out into the world. He's clear. He's clear here. Why is that being said there? Because it's telling us more so what we need to be doing. Because as we sit there and we go through this as a whole, we want to understand what it's saying. Because with these both sides, he's telling us this as we want to understand it. It says, in only one path between them both. One path. We on this blade. We on this blade. Even between the fire and the water, so small there could but one man go there at once. You're on this one blade, this sword. You on this. That's all you're on. So our problem is this, and actually we're going to go down here. I want to take you down to here. I want to show you something in Mark. And the reason I want to show you in Mark, because this is a big problem that we do have. And men will always do this. And some of us still going to fall for it. Even though you can see it right in front of you, some people still, no matter what, is going to fall for it. And Christ is saying, including then, if any man shall say to you, lo, here is Christ. Hey, come over here. We teaching Christ over here. Come to this building. I need you to come here. Some, no matter what, going to believe it. I don't care how we look at this. Some people is going to hold to it 100%. Well, I'm going to go check it out. Why? Because you respect a person. Well, I'm going to go. Or, lo, he is there. I'm just going to go see. I just want to see what he's talking about. Believe him not. But guess what? You don't believe Christ, you're going to believe the man. Meaning you're not the very elect. You just was elected, but you threw it away. Many of us are going to do this. I promise you a lot of us are going to do this. Being part of the doctrine of Balaam and the doctrine of Nicolaitans, they would even bid you to do other things. They'd bid you to marry and abstain from meats, meaning from doctrines of Christ, that JEHOVAH created himself for you to be received with thanksgiving of the very elect, and you choose not that. All we got to remember of this river, we have a mixture of people having their own personal thoughts on how they're going to get to the land of promise. Knowing nothing. Knowing nothing. Flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God, neither can flesh please God. But the main thing is people like to get in with clicks. Flesh. Our direction shouldn't come from no man. So with this sword, to divide this truth and this spirit, and you follow that spirit, it's going to be extremely unpleasant. Full of adversities, full of sufferings, full of evil works, and full of dangers. So our guide need to be the Spirit of God who came from God, not a man. In fact, he said this, actually, we drop down. We see this even here. He's saying this here. It says, now therefore, why disquiettest thyself, seeing thou art but a corruptible man? Why art thou moved, whereas thou art but mortal? To unpack that is what he's talking about. Disquiettest is telling you about why are you troubled? Why are you being troubled about you? Why are you going to trouble yourself about this? And thou art, A-R-T, our own perfection and beauty, is corruptible. Our art, but a corruptible man. Our perfection and beauty is corruptible. Why do we worry about that? It's flesh. Let's go a little bit closer again. We want to look at this all closer to where we can't get around anything. In Romans chapter 8, verse 8. If we're a man, so then they that are in the flesh cannot please God. Why are we having this problem? Why are we having this problem seeing that we are men? In fact, I'll put another one there. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, picking up at verse 50. It's the same thing, and we choose for some reason that we can change the Bible. That flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God, neither do corruption inherit incorruption. So what is our issue? He's saying this and being even more upfront with us. Being more upfront with us. He says, why art thou, your perfect in beauty, thou moved? What moved is being persuaded. So why art the perfect perfection in beauty thou persuaded? What you being persuaded over? How can someone of flesh, and this is a viable question, how can somebody of flesh persuade you to go another way? It's crazy. We sitting in here in Pergamos, and we'll sit under the doctrines of Balaam and under the doctrines of the Nicolaitans and being persuaded from craziness. What persuaded you? I'm going to ask the question. I don't know what the answer is going to be, but you put whatever answer it is. What persuaded you to sit in those churches for so many years? Just put it in the chat, whatever it is. What persuaded you to be in those churches for so many years? Don't sit there and try to do some general statement like you're going to be real smart in your answer. Just put whatever it is. Put whatever it is. And you see the first two. They said there, one persuaded themselves, the other one was persuaded by family. Was persuaded by their grandmother. Another was family, one bringing up tradition. You see how it's going? You see how this is going? A lot of us was persuaded by family. By family. Look at it. I'm talking, this is crazy. The reason why I want you to see that out of your own mouth, if your own family persuaded you, why not sit there and tell them boldly exactly what is right? It's only fair. They told you. Why you can't tell them? If they was able to show you something, why when you see what the truth is doing it? Yeah, some going along. Yeah, I get it. All this. You see how there's no wrong answer there? You see how there's no wrong? Learn behavior. Exactly the point. You see how there's no wrong answer there? Because you followed something that you thought, or you was respecting parents and family members, and you respected them. So you followed it. The thing is, if they was bold enough to get you to follow something, why you can't be bold enough to separate the truth from the false? You know it. Tell them about it. What persuaded you? You saying right in there what's persuaded you? Family, mother, father, pastors, and friends, and wives, and husbands. You got all kinds of stuff in there. All kinds of things in there. So if those things was there, why you can't sit there and tell them? They told you. Why you can't tell them? That's what this comes down to. In fact, let's look at this. Verse 16. And I appreciate you guys for putting in your honest opinions right there. What exactly what you guys feel that did it? What pushed you over that edge? And it says, why hast thou not considered in thy mind? Why be considering in thy mind this thing that is to come, rather than that which is present? He's catching us. Same as I was persuaded by my own mother, my own grandfather. Same thing. Ain't nothing I can do about it. Ain't nothing I can do about it. What happened, happened. And so he's asking, what have we considered? The things that we want to hope for. So let's look at something. We're gonna go over here to actually we're right over here. We can go down to verse 24. Let's go down to verse 24. In Romans 8:24. It says, for we are saved by hope, but hope that is seen is not hope. For what a man seeth, why do he yet hope for? Wow. I don't know, boy. That's more profound and put in that same way than anything. Because the things in our mind is the things that we look for, the substance. Actually, I want to tell you what, let's do this. We're going to go to Hebrews, and we're going to go to chapter 11, verse 1. We're going to go there. Now we can get it all together. So, because it'll look like I'm taking his words, but I'm telling you where my thoughts is coming from. So, the same thing here, it says, so we're saved by hope. And hope that is seen is not hope. But now faith is the substance of things, this expected desired outcomes, is things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. This is why, so the same thing he said, why hast thou not considered in thy mind the things that is to come? These are the things that's to come, the kingdom. Everybody with me there? He wants you to see the things to come. The things to come. So we want to understand that all together. We want to understand that as a whole. So as we understand this as a whole, we go to these buildings and we looking at that. But he said, why have you considered the things in your mind? You consider those things. Those are things you consider. The things that is in your mind, not the things you see. The things that is in your mind. Let that be the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. This is what he's telling us. This is what he's saying right here. But a lot of us has considered the things that we have seen. In the more so, and I can actually vouch for it. Now I never seen it in a lot of churches, but I'm gonna ask you a question, and you'll see where people go to churches, they gotta have fumigators, roaches, they have roach problems, infestations, they have rat infestations, they have all types of things, roof problems, they have breaking in problems, they have thief problems. They have wore out carpets. They have, window breakings. You name it, they have it. Is that the place of God that you have an expectation to go to? Is that your expected expectation? Is that what you're expecting to go through? Is that your hope in your evidence of things not seen? Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, that's not it. You expect to where you can go in to the house of God and you can sit there and they can put your plate and you ain't gonna use a plate. We're gonna put the food on the floor and you can eat from it. It's that clean. It's that pure. That's what you want. That's what you want. So we come to this dilemma. We come to a dilemma on this. It is what it is. Meaning this. Let's go back over here and let's look at Ezekiel real quick and catch something on Ezekiel. In Ezekiel, see, because we looking at these things hoped for. This is what we've been doing. We got caught with substance of things seen. We got caught with those things. And we'll find this tucked away over in Ezekiel chapter 28, picking up at verse 16. It tells us. He tells us right here. It says, by the multitude of thy merchandise, they have filled in the midst of thee with violence. Everything we have filled ourselves with is with violence. With violence. It even gets better. It says, including thou hast sinned, for that reason I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of God. I will destroy thee, O covering cherub. Cherub. Most people don't know why he's saying cherub. Cherub, just to give you a little insight on that, we are these intercessors, these guards of the word. So we're the covenant. We're the ark of the covenant. The covenant is in us. He said, I'm going to put my words in your mouth. I'm going to put my words going to reside in you. You're the temple of God, so you're the ark. You cherub. And you didn't decide to do things that you weren't supposed to do. Holding on to the doctrines of Balaam. On to the doctrines of the Nicolaitans. It's a tough thing to even get into, to talk about, but we just have to understand where we're coming from and what we need to do. So considering this and these amounts, and then we have all these things, and we have lawsuits that is never ending, that's going through these people, and then we have this violence we produce and all these things, we killing animals, the destruction of the land and the people. Nothing but immorality. Nothing but immorality. Have we considered all these profane things that we banned from the sanctuary? Have we did this? If we attempt to bring such things in to God, and then He's going to expel us. Think about that. Think about that. We are covering cherubims. So he said this, and as he finishing this us out right here, we'll go down. We want these. It says, so thou hast also take hold to the doctrine of the Nicolaitans. This is exactly what we were saying before. Which thing I hate? He hated, because he told us about it already before. But he made sure of this. He says, remember, or else I will come unto thee quickly, including will fight against them with the sword of my mouth. He's going to divide us from that truth. We're going to get divided. He's not here to play. So the sword is the weapon of war, because he's going to divide that word of truth. That mouth is the edge of it. That mouth is the edge of it. Some of us are going to hear it, some of us is not. So he leaves us with this again. He leaves us with this again. He says, he that have an ear, let him hear. What the Spirit says unto the churches. That's the full thought. To him that overcometh will I give to learn of the hidden bread, the hidden understanding, the hidden doctrines. And I will give him a white stone. That's a beautiful thing. This is a separated in the righteousness of the path to the way that we need to be going. That's that right there. This white stone, in the stone, a new way written, which no man knoweth, saying, he that receiveth it. So, we here. And as we go through this week and we looking at these brothers, these sisters that going down through here, through Pergamos. You gotta meet with your people. You have to understand what we're doing. Meet with them. The opportunity presents itself, you present the gospel. But don't sit there and act like you don't know. Don't sit there and act like it's just for you. Because if you hold one way to the other, it's going to be your own demise on you. So as we go through this, and hopefully we understood what went on as we went through Pergamos, and we'll be going through there all week, and then we'll pick up next week and the next one. But just make sure that you hold on to what's going on. Don't be afraid of people. So the same as I said, we're going to be ready to we're going to meet in the back area. We're going to meet in Zoom on the baptism. So if anybody have any other questions that they need to check on that, I have a couple other things I want to share with that. So if you guys are planning on going over there to that, and if you want to sign up for it, make sure you sign up there with the at the baptism at kjbu.org. You're more than welcome to sign up there. Make sure, and if you need to meet on anything else other than that, then we're going to take care of first. Then also we have we will be doing Proverbs later this evening. Proverbs will be going on later this evening. Today at 3 o'clock Pacific time, 5 o'clock East Central, and 6 o'clock Eastern time. That's going to be a very, very, very interesting teaching. So hopefully that you guys will be able to make that one also. You guys are more than welcome, and hopefully you guys will be able to join us at that time. But right now, what we're going to do, we're going to end it here to where we can get ready. You can see the link that's down there for the baptism meeting down in the description. You'll see the link there. You guys are more than welcome to come back there. And from there, we will be ending here for right now until later on this afternoon, which we will be going forth with the Proverbs teaching. So other than that, I have no other announcements that's going on. So I say to each and every person right now, until next time, I say to each and every one of you guys, shalom.
It's a little bit crazy. You're suddenly blurry now. I wonder if anything was real. All our history's hazy, like driving in the pouring rain. Are we in too deep to heal? That you're sorry, we'll make up tomorrow. Tell me everything you know I wanna hear. I'm trying to be open, but that window is closing. And either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here.
There's something left to hold on to. We can work it through, you don't have to go. There's a future here with me. We'll find the light in a clouded room. Not giving up until you know. Oh
to be all